besides the things we've already gone over, like Libre, kernel, and things like that, what are the worst bits of like Linux data privacy, data security you hear from people?
Oh, that's a good one. This might get me. Oh, I've said it on the podcast to my patrons.
You don't have to
I
give
won't get
any
in
names
trouble.
of people.
Is
Just
the people who say like you need to use stripped away forks of stuff, and so like the people who are like you mentioned in one video the de-appleified cups, for example, right? Or
did I
using
mention that term? I think I
or
met.
VS Codium
Yeah,
versus
yeah.
VS Code. That's a big one. Or like de-googled Chromium versus like ungoogled Chromium versus like normal Chromium.
Mm-hmm.
And this is because, well, one, you can't. There's a reason why ungoogled Chromium exists because you can't just patch out like the stuff. And it's funny because their patches are still used by
Mm-hmm.
other browsers that are able to keep up with those changes. Because I think Brave implements ungoogled Chromium's patches to
Mm-hmm.
remove Google's telemetry, and Graphene OS also does too.
Mm-hmm.
And Bromite, when they actually update their stuff, does as well. But like these forks of forks is really you're just adding another party to trust,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not really doing much to help you because now you have to trust all of these other people who are touching this thing. In addition to trusting that company, you can't trust anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So like the people who are like, well, I don't want to use VS Code because Microsoft is collecting telemetry about me, but it's like you can just turn it off in the settings.
Mm.
You just turn it off in the settings because it's open source. You think people would be crying? Walt would be crying like from high heaven if you turned it off and if it was still like collecting telemetry and sending it to Microsoft. Like, and because it's open source, people would know like immediately.
Mm-hmm.
Like VS Code's in a completely different situation from Chromium because you can actually turn it off like in the normal install.
Yeah.
Like you can't do that with Chromium. You have to like write all those silly patches, which is why they never compile it at all.
One thing I will say about Codium is it does make a bunch of, if you don't care about the security part, it does make a bunch of other tweaks that make it a nicer environment. But those are tweaks that you can do in base Codium if you just grab the configs and just set it up.
Another one on the topic of that. Another one: LibreWolf versus Firefox.
Yeah,
that's one of the most common ones I've seen so far. It's like there's no point in using LibreWolf if you watch my dumb video about how to install a Firefox user.js, which I spent way too much time editing with such little, which got me a lot of payoff, but I edited like crap and it doesn't look good at all. Like, which is why I changed outfits like 3 times in the video. Like, there's all sorts of little things like that, and if you just know how to do that, you don't even need to use LibreWolf. It's just a complete joke because LibreWolf also has to catch up with Mozilla. And if Thunderbird's team, if you read their recent blog post, is having trouble with keeping up with Mozilla, then we're all doomed. Like I'm just saying, like that's just how fast browsers move. Like people can't. It's reasonable to say they can't because it's like they move so quickly. Literally, before I hopped on with you, Firefox 110 came out today. Like, which is the thing. Yeah, Firefox 110. Microsoft Patch Tuesday with 30 days in the toe. Apple 0-day exploit in the wild. iOS 16.3 and macOS Ventura, whatever next version of macOS Ventura we're on. All were released today at the time of us recording.
Jesus.
So it's all on because it's on Patch Tuesday. That's why technically Apple's was released yesterday, but it's still annoying. And like it's all really this is just the way the world moves. It's like how Debian releases an update every Friday. It's just how it is.
Oh, is that I actually didn't know that.
Huh. Yeah, if you use vanilla Debian, you'll find out they just update everything on Friday.
Yeah,
like there's no updates for the rest of the week unless it's really bad.
Yeah.
And then they just send out other updates on Friday.